The fourth and final video on section 10.10, second law of thermodynamics, or entropy. For most of us, entropy is something we never think about. But here's one example of how entropy can actually make your life a little bit better. There's kind of a lot going on in this cartoon, so let's take it apart. Good passwords have high entropy. Well, in this box, what we're looking at is a password that to most human beings would be complicated to remember, right? But software doesn't think the way you and I do, right? Each one of these boxes is the way software approaches this. The fewer boxes, the easier time software is going to have cracking a password, so to speak. Again, software doesn't have the associations you and I do. Our brains have been trained to remember images, to remember words, to remember collections of things that we feel should fit together. Software doesn't think that way. This password might look tricky to you or I. To a computer, all it has is a few boxes. Okay, 28 bits of entropy. What does that mean? Well, that means there's 28 boxes here, right? And if each of the boxes can have two possibilities, 2 to the 28th, means that it's not going to take long for a computer to guess this password. And there's a few details here, but computers are going to have an easy time with this. You and I, on the other hand, are going to have a hard time with this. So this is an example of what you might consider a bad password. Easy to crack, hard to remember. You say, well, okay, how do I make a better password? Well, this. You and I have an easy time remembering this because we've trained our brains to understand that all these letters fit together. In fact, you can even have an image in your head. That's this last box. We make images for all these words, right? And we remember those images more easily. The computer doesn't think like you and I do, right? The software doesn't think like you and I do. All the software understands is that each of these letters represents a certain amount of information. Now you've got 44 bits of information. The computer can't do that, right? 550 years to try to guess this password just using random values for each box. What that means is you and I are going to have a much easier time remembering this than this. But because it has so many more letters, a computer will have a much more difficult time cracking this than this. So the name of the game is come up with a password that's going to be long so a computer can't remember or can't crack it, pardon me. But something that's slightly random so another human being can't just write it down and guess it either, right? Now finally, what does any of this have to do with entropy? Well, this is a low entropy password, easy for the computer. This is a very high entropy password, hard for the computer. So in a certain sense, the name of the game of making good passwords is lots of entropy to make it hard for the computer, but entropy that is organized in such a way that you and I can remember it well. So good passwords have high entropy.